we date back to high school, right?
Yeah.
2005, 6, something along those lines.
Yeah, probably 2006.
Right. We've known each other for about 15 years. I am best friends with Frank, but obviously as Frank moved away,
you got the better version of him.
I got the better version here.
Upgraded.
That's hilarious. But we were always tight.
Yes.
We were always tight. But Frank and I would do like the one-on-one thing.
Yes.
Right. But then as the years went on, we're 1 year apart.
Just about. Not
right,
even
1 year apart. So we just got closer and closer, and then you met your wife where?
So we, at your rehearsal dinner, we went to a rehearsal dinner. It's weird that I remember this. And I was sitting at a table with, it wasn't close to where the bridesmaids were.
Yep.
I remember that.
This rehearsal dinner for the wedding.
For the wedding, for
Right.
Dave and Karina.
Yep.
And I remember specifically sitting pretty far away from all the bridesmaids. I'm like, all right, Dave, thanks. I was single at the time. Like, thanks, appreciate it. Don't worry about me. so
I got you, bud.
this girl walks in, and she's in a purple romper. I believe she says it's periwinkle when I tell the story.
Periwinkle, yes.
So she walks in with a purple romper, and not to be a creep, but I was like, oh, who is that? I'm like, hey. And
Yep.
I do this thing where I kind of just look, and I'm like, all right, well, I got to go break the ice somehow. So I don't think I broke the ice that night because I was so far away. It was a very far walk. I wasn't the walk king at the time.
He wasn't the walk king, and he was on the other level, probably.
Yeah, it was my birthday too. So we
It
were
was your
enjoying
birthday.
ourselves.
Yes,
So
yes. How selfish of us.
the next night, obviously, the wedding happens, and we're at the after party, or not the after. We're at the reception, right? Reception. Is
Yeah,
when
and
you
you were a groomsman
yeah,
in
so
the
I
wedding.
was a groomsman. You jinxed me about this storytelling thing.
Well.
So I'm a groomsman in the wedding. She is a bridesmaid.
Yep.
And I'm Dave's best friend. She's Karina's best friend, and
Yep.
then was your third roommate at one time.
Yes.
So we go to the reception after,
Mm-hmm.
and my whole thing is like, oh, let me go dance for a dance and do like the old school Carlton or something.
Right.
Just very lighthearted, funny, and then leave. So I usually get out before someone leaves me on the dance floor.
Right.
What happened was I'm dancing with her, not even a full song, and Angel, who's a very good-looking
Yep.
little kid at the time,
Right.
I mean, still now, but comes over and he pokes her and he goes, let's dance. And she leaves me
She left.
for this 5-year-old. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I'm standing there and I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go hang out. And like, long story short, didn't dance for the rest of the night.
Wow.
And
I thought you guys did dance.
danced
And
once.
then that was it. Wow.
Then it was time to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, great. I'll talk to her at the after party because you guys are having a big after party.
Yep.
So I hop on some bus and get dropped off. And I'm at this after party. And I'm talking with everyone. And Karina's Puerto Rican. And everyone's Puerto Rican and Italian.
Yep. And she's half Ecuadorian, too. Just so.
Yeah, and half Ecuadorian.
Yeah.
So like a scene out of Wedding Crashers, I'm in the middle, like eating cake. And I know you're not a movie guy.
Not a movie guy.
But I'm in the middle with like all these people, and I'm telling stories, and people are laughing, and like my hand's over someone's shoulder.
And then everyone said jabroni.
So I'm like, hey, bud, like you guys are great. Like, who you related to in the family? It's like Dave or Karina, and they're like, who? I'm like, what? They're like, this is for like Emily and Derek, and I'm like, wait. What? And they're like, yeah, they're not at this place. And I'm like, you're lying. So I go to the lobby and I go up to the front and I'm like, who's this party for? And they're like, oh, Emily and Derek or whoever the name was. And I'm like, oh my God, I just spent 2 hours at the wrong after party.
You didn't realize that
2 hours, Dave.
But I'm saying you didn't realize that nobody else was
No,
recognizable to
you know when you're just kind of like in the moment,
Right,
you're just
right.
talking with people, and I'm like, they're here somewhere. I'm very like that. I just go wherever.
Yep.
So I walked back to the hotel, which was 35 minutes.
Oh my God.
Alyssa and Frank were at the room, texting me nonstop, like, "Where are you?" And I was like, "I'm coming." And I walk in, they're like, "Where were you?" And I was like, I started crying, laughing, because I was like, I was at the wrong after party for 2.5 hours, roughly.
That is amazing. Imagine if we documented that though.
So every time people are like, how'd you meet your wife? I'm like, well, we danced, and I wanted to hit on her when we went out, or like, actually talk to her, and I went to the wrong after party.